preschoolers. We have been learning about the ocean this month, and so I thought over the next week I would read you some books about adventures in the ocean. Does this look like an animal that lives in the ocean to you? Do dogs live in the ocean? Not usually. But this is Herbert, the true story of a brave sea dog, and we're going to find out about an adventure he has out in the water. The author is Robin Belton. All right, let's find out about Herbert. There he is, isn't he cute? Herbert was a small dog who lived in Nelson, New Zealand by the sea. Everybody liked Herbert, but the person who loved him most was Tim. One day, Tim and Herbert went down to the jetty. Tim's father was on board a boat with two friends. They were going to a cottage in the Marlborough Sounds. With a bound, Herbert leaped onto the boat with them. Tim wished he could go too, but he and his mother were traveling to the cottage by road. His dad said, "The waters in French Pass are treacherous, and there are already whirlpools. It is no place for a child." "Well, look after Herbert, Dad," called Tim. At first, the sea was calm, and the boat sped along the coastline easily. Dolphins appeared, tumbling and turning, leaping and diving. Herbert was so excited that he ran from one side of the boat to the other, wagging his tail and barking. Oh, look at all those dolphins. But the fine weather didn't last. Without warning, a strong wind swept down from the hills, whipping up the waves. The boat began to pitch and toss. The dolphins disappeared. Oh dear. It's not looking so good, is it? Dark clouds hid the sun. Rain and waves beat against the boat. All signs of land disappeared. The boat had to get through French Pass before the tide turned. Now the men had only their compass to guide them. Have you seen a compass? It says north, south, east and west on it. And it helps you figure out what direction you're going based on which way the arrow is turning. Nobody noticed what happened to Herbert. Nobody saw him lose his balance and fall into the sea. Oh no. He tried to bark, but nobody heard him. Herbert paddled after the boat, but it was already far away. The waves were like mountains. He struggled up one side and down the other with the wind in his face. Oh no, what's going to happen to him? At night, as night fell, the wind dropped. Herbert was exhausted, but he was still swimming. Oh, he didn't give up. He's swimming by the dolphins. When the boat was safely through French Pass, the men looked at one another. "Where's Herbert?" one of them asked. "Herbert!" shouted Tim's dad. "Where are you?" They searched the boat from stem to stern. "He's fallen overboard. We have to go back," Tim's dad said. "We can't go back. The tide's turned," said one of the men. "We'll never get through the pass." "He won't survive in the sea," said the other. With heavy hearts, they carried on. Oh no. It was late when they reached the jetty by the cottage. Tim, his mother, and their friends were anxiously waiting. The dreadful news had to be told. Tim cried and cried. "He's alive," he said. "I know he's alive. We must go back." His dad tried to explain about the tide. "And it's dark, Tim." But Tim wouldn't give up. "He's alive, I know it." What do you think? Do you think Herbert made it? Dad said, "We'll search for him tomorrow, and we'll ask the fisherman who lives at the pass to help us. He knows the area like the back of his hand. Go to sleep now, Tim." But Tim could not sleep. It'd be hard to sleep if you lost your dog. The next morning, at first light, Tim and his dad set off with the fisherman in the boat. The storm was over. The sea was cold and empty. Tim searched with tears in his eyes. He said to his dad, "This will be the worst day or the best day of my life." All morning they searched the empty sea, peering and calling. There was no sign of Herbert. It's no good, said the fisherman. We might as well turn back. No, cried Tim, please keep looking. One more time, they took the boat to outer sounds. The fisherman straining his eyes. What's that? He said, reaching for his binoculars. Ooh, what do you think he sees? There's your dog, mate, the fisherman said. In a circle of ripples, Tim could see a little black nose. Herbert, he shouted. Do you see that little black nose? Oh my goodness. They brought the boat over to Herbert. I knew you were alive, said Tim. I just knew it. The fisherman scooped Herbert out of the water. Herbert lay on the deck without making a sound. Tim gently wrapped him in a blanket and held him tight. Oh, Herbert was exhausted. All the way home, Tim cradled Herbert in his arms. I knew it, he said. I just knew it. 30 hours in the water, said Dad. A miracle, said the fisherman. Tim smiled. This is the best day of my life. Oh my goodness, Herbert made it. The good news went out over the radio, and soon Herbert's story was told all around the country. He received letters and presents from people who wanted to say how happy they were. When he had completely recovered, there was a big party in Nelson, and Herbert was given a medal for his bravery. Oh my goodness. And that's the end of our story. Herbert was such a brave dog. He didn't give up even when things were really hard, and he made it. And Tim found him. Tim didn't give up on Herbert either. So, there's our first ocean story. Tim survived. Herbert survived, but Tim survived too. It would have been rough without his dog. And so, stay tuned this week for more stories about exciting things that happen in the ocean.